Are we talking like in terms of like risk from your team's end? Are we talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars or like millions or like multi-millions? Like, is this going to cause any sort of a conflict with like Raid? Because obviously you have, a huge website for Raid, that you have a dedicated team to that. Now, is there going to be any bad blood when I develop an offer calculator for Fateless? Are you going to be mad at me or? Hey, what's up? This is Chosen and going to be joined by the one and only Mr. HellHades. How you doing today?
Yeah, doing good, man. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, doing good. Busy as always, as you can understand. And I'm excited to chat with you because I think this is one of the bigger things in the community. This is probably the first time I've seen like a content creator within a community of a game that I cover kind of like step into wanting to make a similar game. Like I was a StarCraft creator. And I don't remember like a StarCraft creator being like, you know what? I'm gonna make a game like StarCraft. So like,
yeah. It's a massive step, obviously, massive step. But I don't know. I'm so passionate about it. I just like, why not? In the end, I was just like, why not? Why are we not doing this? People keep asking, why are we not considering it? And we kind of had a few chats, and it was like, you know what? Let's dive in. Let's give this a go. Let's see if it's feasible.
Yeah, well, awesome. Yeah. I appreciate you. I do want to preface for the viewers that this project is super new, so it's not like HellHades is going to be able to tell us every little fine detail, and we have to give you credit for at least being willing to step out there and talk about things, because it would be really easy from a PR standpoint to be like, hey, give me 6 months and then we'll talk about it. So it's really cool that you're willing to at least try and engage and answer some of the questions that are out there, even if the answer is probably going to sometimes be, well, I don't know quite yet, but.
Yeah, and there's probably going to be a ton of that today, honestly, because it's literally, the game studio has launched. We know the direction we want. We know what we're doing. However, we probably won't have a game for 2 years. So it's not like I'm like, oh, look at this demo. We don't have a demo. It's very early days.
How long has this been a thing? Like a year, 6 months? Like how long has this been in your head?
So I think it's almost been like in the back of my brain for probably the best part of a year. With just people saying, why don't you do it? And I'm just kind of like laughing. Yeah, we don't have those expertise, etc. So it's kind of been a thing. And I'd say 3 months ago, I was actually in a meeting with the team at HH Gaming. And I was like, look, I keep being asked this. Why don't we make our own game? And I kind of said it for a joke. And then the guys were just like, well, I suppose we could. And before we knew it, it was like, actually, what's stopping us? What's stopping us actually like fleshing out? What does it look like? What sort of costs are involved? What do we need? All of those type of questions, and then deciding if we actually want to start to do it and start to push cash towards it and stuff. So yeah, probably 3 months actively doing stuff.
Yep, gotcha. Okay, cool. Now, I know I had a lot of questions from viewers, and obviously I can't get to everybody's questions, but I do appreciate all of your input, and I did actually go through all the comments, and I'm gonna try to touch on as many topics as I can. I mean, we don't have 3 hours. I'd love to talk to you about everything, but we'll try to get to some of the main like talking points. So,
but maybe we do another one in 6 months where I can actually answer some.
That's right.
Valuable stuff.
What is because I know you're trying to kind of go big with it. I would have expected that maybe you start out small. Maybe you make a game like Vampire Survivors first and just like get something out there, like something quick, low budget, see if it takes off. So what was the thought process on like, let's go big right out the gate?
Yeah, it might just be my style, honestly. So I thought to myself, we see a lot of budget stuff come out, and it comes out and it might kind of have a little bit of an uptake and then drop off again. And I wanted something which the community which is already around me would actually love. And we kind of looked at if we could either have gone low budget and just kind of kept everything in-house, or higher budget, but relatively lower risk because we're going to partner with big game studio as well. So, we're using someone else's expertise with kind of like our creative direction. We kind of looked at the two options and we were like, well, we see a lot of other games come and go. We want to be a game that's going to come and stay. And I don't know, my kind of like drive, I was like, what is actually stopping us just doing this properly? What's stopping us actually putting something out there that we believe in and we think everyone else will believe in as well? So that's the direction. Rightly or wrongly, we're kind of going to live by it, because I think, we want something that's going to actually compete in the market. That's the main thing. so not be like the number one, but potentially, maybe it is, but not be the number one necessarily, but actually compete is what we're going for.
Yep, and I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say, can you tell us anything about the partnerships? 'Cause I know you talked about an IP. I know you can't tell us who it is, but like, is it something huge like a Star Wars, or is it something on like a smaller scale? Are you gonna still be the majority owner, or are you gonna own like 20% and they're gonna be at 80? Like, can you give us any sort of information about the dynamics of like the scope of the partners?
Yeah, so the IP, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been involved in any of this sort of stuff, but basically what we're doing is we're pitching to a company and they're saying, yes, we'll either let you use our branding or not. That's pretty much the way it works with the IP stuff. So we had like a top 3, which are all kind of, are they quite as big as Star Wars? I'm not sure, honestly, but they're all names that everybody will know. Yeah, instantly, as soon as I say the name, people will be like, wow, great. Like, because again, like, we thought we wouldn't be able to compete if we just came up with our own IP. Yeah, it's already quite a busy genre. So we wanted something that could kind of step out on its own and people would be like, I love that. I want to get involved in that, whether they know me or not. And that was kind of like the kind of big thing for us. So I can't share IPs because we're going through negotiations and all that type of stuff, and nothing's nailed down. We're kind of close, but nothing's nailed down. So that's still kind of ongoing right now. But it will be something that everybody knows. The other thing in terms of partner, so we're pairing with a game studio called Magic Media, and basically they've just worked on hundreds of games. They've got over 1,000 employees, and the cool thing with this studio is we can use them to ramp up and down their team. So it's almost, well, I said low risk in terms of like the investor conversations we're having. It's kind of, well, we know the cost of what we want. We already got it. It's all quoted out, like, and it's mapped out in terms of time. So we know all of that stuff. It's almost the equivalent to asking someone to build you a house. It's like, right, well, what's the material cost? What's the labor cost? When do you think it's going to be done? And then you hold them to that. So with our creative direction, we kind of know the outline of what this game will look like. So from that side, I'm really confident. There's just the time frames really around locking down the IP, actually getting the project started, and then you kind of go through a number of steps,
Now, will they be the majority? Like, will you answer to them, or will they answer to you? Like where does the rubber meet the road in terms of who actually makes the big decisions?
Yeah, we make the decisions 100%. So it's our product that they're making on our behalf. That's the vibe of it. So basically, it's almost like we had a number of different studios pitch us in terms of why they would want our business. That's basically the way it works. So everything around direction is us. Everything around creative decision is us. To the point where we're basically going to be embed in their business, working through the project as it's going live. So we're not going to be sitting there next to the artist saying yes or no, but ultimately we're going to be agreeing these are the features that go into the game, etc., etc. So
okay, cool. And what is the scope of like? I understand you can't give exact amounts and all that, but are we talking like in terms of like risk from your team's end? Are we talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars, or like millions, or like multi-millions? Like, can you give any sort of idea of like the risk you're kind of embarking on?
Yeah, I mean the full project end to end. I can't tell you exact numbers and stuff because I honestly don't know. I pretty much do know, but it's millions. It's millions of dollars of investment to produce what we want to produce. And I guess it's all relative, isn't it? Because this type of genre, this type of market, mobile game, and all that type of stuff is just it's big returns on big investment if you get it right. And ultimately, we want at least to get to a point where we've launched a fantastic product. And if we've launched a fantastic product, I don't think we'd have any problem recouping the investment. But it is, it's a lot upfront. Well, not upfront. It's a lot as you go. But yeah, it's more. It shocked me when we started to get into the numbers. It's probably about 3 times more than I ever thought it was going to be. Honestly, which is and the number I thought it was going to be was already a lot. So yeah, it is big. It is big.
Okay, great. And I had a lot of people kind of curious and asking about, is this going to cause any sort of a conflict with like Raid? Because obviously you have a huge website for Raid, that you have a dedicated team to that, and then you're kind of like stepping in to compete with Raid. Are you gonna like put Fateless on the HH Gaming site next to Raid? Are you gonna make it like separate? Are you gonna cover the game at all, or are you just gonna let content creators like me cover it from the outside? Like, what's your kind of plan in relation to the conflict of Raid?
Yeah, so nothing like from my day to day, nothing's going to change for now. Like basically, I'm doing 2 jobs. Think of it like that, or 3 jobs, or 5 jobs, whatever we do nowadays as content creators. But basically, Fateless and HH Gaming are 2 completely separate entities. Me and Dan work with both of them, but they're completely separate entities. And it's not a conflict of Raid. I was trying to explain this on stream. Like, if you can imagine how many games that pop up in this genre almost weekly, we get a new game in this genre. Like Raid would be looking at this as a project which is 2 years out, as basically white noise. Like there's no risk to them at this moment in time. And honestly, we've got an HH gaming team who are employed to do a job on the website, and they do a great job. And it would be crazy to ever want that to go away. So all of that stays as is. It will continue to develop, continue to grow, and we'll make sure that we get all of the content out for the player base for Raid. Whether we do, we probably would end up doing, I think, a separate website for a new game. So that's. But then saying that, even on HH Gaming, sometimes we've done other games if we've covered them. Like when we did Eternal Evolution, we've got kind of Eternal Evolution section whilst we was covering it. So we might put it in there. We're not sure really. We've not spoken about that. But I think we would probably do a separate website. And in terms of content, that's a tough one as well, because I feel like if I'm a game owner and a content creator on the game, that doesn't necessarily go down that well. I'm just trying to think of, it's almost like if you imagine Raid's Facebook, every comment is not, oh, this is great. It's talking about something completely different that they're just annoyed about. So I don't know if that works, but certainly we would have, or would want, content creators for the game. I think it's kind of, healthy lifeblood of a game to have people kind of, theorize over stuff and enjoy the game and kind of share it. So we definitely would want creators. Am I going to be one of them? I don't know, but possibly not. I'm not sure.
Now, is there going to be any bad blood when I develop an offer calculator for Fateless? Are you going to be mad at me, or? No,
we're going to welcome that. No, look, it is what it is. Any tools, I think, which are out there in the community, just, it creates discussion. It helps people play the game, helps people make decisions, and how many people use it versus people that don't anyway. This is the thing. Like, most people are just sitting there on their phones, in their work break, and they decide if they're going to buy something, versus us kind of like super geeks that trying to work out everything to the nth degree before we make a decision,
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that brings me to another question that was kind of popping up. Have you decided your stance on some of the like third-party quality of life things? Because that's always a hot topic, and I'm sure you're gonna have discussions with your team. But are you leading in like a direction? Like, let's say somebody makes an RSL helper for Fateless. Is that something you're gonna want to do yourself, or you're gonna want to like let the community do it? Are you gonna ban it? Are you gonna allow it? Have you kind of had any discussions like that?
Yeah. So we don't know what they would need, honestly. We'd hope that we're able to build systems that are already, I guess, a bit more progressed than what we see in today's games, because we already know some of the things we would like to happen. I'm not saying we'll be able to do everything though, and I think we'd go down the direction more likely in terms of give people API links to be able to create some of these things. If they sound like they're a good idea and they would help players enjoy the game, then I don't see why we wouldn't do that. I know actually Summoners War do that. They've got like API links that they'll give out to people making tools and stuff. And if anything, it just helps them play the game. So I'm always a bit surprised really that Raid especially don't do it, and some of these other games don't do it. Just it feels like it's a blocker really with very little reason for it.
Okay, great. Can you give any insight into like some of the thoughts you have on like overall design? Like are there like special stats like crit rate, accuracy, resistance? Is it going to kind of be structured like raid with a campaign and then like gear dungeons and then mechanics like the factions, then you fight through like or do you have any new ideas or anything that you can kind of share at this point in terms of like the actual mechanics, like ascending champions, ranking up their skills? Have you made any sort of these kind of basic decisions yet?
Yeah, look, we've been talking about a whole bunch of different ideas, and um, I guess the premise of the game will be, it's still going to be a turn mechanic game, RPG, that we know. So it's not going to be like we're just going to completely change the whole landscape of this genre. I don't think we would want to do that. In terms of actual gameplay mechanics and gear and that type of stuff, there's some things that we're kind of going to live by. So depth is really important in terms of, people being able to run various different squads in different dungeons in different areas and not feel like they have to kind of do a cookie cutter one team fits all. In some of these games, sometimes that's what ends up happening. You just have like one squad of 4 and they do everything. We definitely do not want that to happen. And in terms of depth as well, gearing is going to be really important to us so that people have different options. And we've been talking about making sure that there's some form of interaction between players, whether that's a kind of clan v clan type of system where you actually fight in a clan v clan, rather than just spend resources, but an actual like battle, one clan versus another, or whether that's kind of like a co-op, a dungeon, something along those lines. There's a lot of ideas, but at the moment, nothing's kind of like nailed down. In fact, the first 4 months, once we nail down the IP and we start moving with the game studio, the first 4 months is all around kind of basically working through the whole pre-production. What do we want in the game? What features do we want? And then we kind of talk through with some of the dev team. It's like the pros and cons of having different modes and different features that we like.
Okay, great. And then one more thing I wanted to touch on about that is a really popular topic is allowing like a player economy, like letting people trade champions or gift champions to one of their friends that's a beginner, or trade gear or buy gear with silver from another player. Are you leaning in any direction on letting players have an economy?
Just interesting. I will answer it. I'd love to ask you, what's your view on trading between players in a game like this?
I think I think it's a great thing to do, but I think you have to limit it. Because if you don't limit it, then you're gonna have all these third-party websites that are farming your game and selling it and making money off of your product. So I know Diablo games have the same problem. They want to let people trade, but as soon as they do, people just bot the game to death and blow up the economy. So I think if you limit, like maybe you can trade one champion a month, or you know, something that will kind of stop the economy from getting blown up. I'd be in favor of some sort of limited economy though.
Yeah, so I don't think, and again, nothing's set in stone, but I don't think we would have a champion trading system. I'm just not certain it works in this style of format. And again, we will talk through all these type of things, but I don't think that works. We have been talking about some form of like auction house, and maybe some of the kind of gear pieces you get are almost like bind on equip. So, you go out and farm a piece, it's not really for you. You might be able to either trade it or sell it at an auction house, and equally, go and buy things which you do want. So that type of stuff, I think, could be an option. But again, like it's very challenging, because you're then looking at, like you say, economies within the game. I think World of Warcraft did it pretty well, but with their game, again, you still had tons of bots and gold sellers, all that type of stuff. So it's tough. But I would like for there to be some sort of trading or some sort of community aspect to items. That would definitely be something we'd favor.
Okay, great. Now I also had a lot of people asking if maybe the impetus of this, kind of in your head the last year or so, was if you think that raid is kind of on the downslope. Do you think like raid is kind of had its course and it's gonna be kind of dead in a year or two, or how do you feel? What did any of that like weigh into your decision, and how you feel about kind of like raid in terms of like the next few years?
I think raid. I think raid might have peaked. So I can't see raid going anywhere for at least 5 years. Yeah, so I think it's I mean, it's been consistently number one for the last 4 years, and I think it might not be number one in say 3 years' time, but I still think it's going to be in like the top few. So I can't see Raid going anywhere, and it wasn't really part of the decision for me. The decision was more about what can we do to kind of evolve what we're doing as a business, and the way we wanted to move forward. So it just felt like for us it was like the next step of in this kind of like journey, this evolution of what we're doing, rather than really this isn't really focused on Raid. This is more about focusing on what we think would be really cool to do.
Okay. Great. Are you going to have like a content creator program like Plarium does it? Let people kind of sign up to be a part of things and kind of embrace that. Where you give resources or have like codes where viewers can support a creator. Do you have like a defined stance on that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely would want content creators for sure. We would do some form of program to make sure that they're well incentivized, all that type of stuff. What it looks like, yeah, no idea. No idea. And I guess the benefit I've got coming into this is I know what I feel works well. So, and also know that often when you reward the creator more, they get involved more. Like, it's simple, isn't it? Like, where's someone going to put their energy in this kind of proposal that looks pretty crap, or in this proposal that looks really great? So, I'm well clear on what I think will work well. But obviously, that's going to be probably 18 months down the line.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. And I just got a couple more here for you, and we'll get you out of here. I know you got a lot to get to, but how about like in terms of how champion acquisition will work? Are you gonna do like shards? Are you gonna do fragments? You already told us you're gonna do turn-based, so it's not gonna be a live kind of battle like Dragonair. But are you gonna do guaranteed events where people can get like a guaranteed chance, like fragments and stuff like that? Do you have any hard opinions on champion acquisition within Fateless?
Yeah, so I love a shard system versus like a fragment system. I've played a number of games where I kind of collect a little bit over time, and I feel like personally it's less rewarding to get those champions. It doesn't feel as kind of big of a buzz. So I think there'll definitely be a shard system. We're kind of talking about, and this isn't finalized, but I really like the idea. We're talking about almost like a world boss type of drop, where I guess almost like an opportunity to get a great champion or to get a great artifact, depends what we do. But this world boss comes in and everyone has to do a certain level of damage or a certain level of participation to be able to take down the world boss, to be able to win a champion for that particular event. I think event-led champion would be fun as well, but just in a more I guess interesting method of doing it. And there'll certainly be just kind of like, as you would expect with this type of game, ways to earn champions over time. Just for either kind of developing your account or for logging in for a certain period of time, that type of thing.
Yep, I 100% agree with you. I think that was why Raid kind of blew up in the early phases. They kind of got that like dopamine right.
Yeah, I feel like Raid, and I've played a number of these now. Raid nailed champions in terms of acquisition really well. I know it's frustrating. The costs are super high, all that type of stuff, and we can balance those things. But the way you actually obtain champions in Raid and get the resources to do so, I think is actually pretty solid. It's one of the things I think they've done actually really well.
Yeah. Now, you one thing that was kind of a hot topic. You had mentioned that PvP will be balanced. Does that mean that the champions will be balanced, or does that mean there will be no advantage for spending balanced?
Yeah. So again, this is up in the air a bit, but there's kind of a few things which I've seen which I like. So I think there probably will be just a straight ladder system where you use your main account, and if you spend more, you're probably going to be able to progress quicker, all that type of stuff. So a bit like Raid Classic Arena style. But there's another system which I think would be cool, where basically you're put into an arena like tournament where everybody has their pick of a certain number of champions for that tournament. Everyone has a certain kind of gear strength, and it's more about kind of pick and ban phase, but utilizing those champions for that tournament. So I think in terms of, and I actually feel like that's the way live arena should have gone. Personally, that was always my view. Is that it shouldn't just be about your account strength. It should be about your skill and your kind of like strategy within that event. So that's one of the directions I'd love to go. And again, we just kind of need to talk through the practicality of that. And then one other thing which I've seen and love is where there's just kind of like so it's still using your account, but it's like a group knockout. So can you get top 2 in your group? If you do, progress to the next stage, so that you always feel like at some part of the PvP, you're involved in a contest where you've actually got a chance to progress to the next bit, and then you get rewarded for how far you get. So there's a few ideas, but as I say, nothing's concrete. I definitely want for there to be at least one form of PvP that's skill-based.
Yeah, did you ever play like Hearthstone or Clash Royale?
Yeah.
So they kind of do a similar thing. They've got like their main ladder, but they have got a separate PvP like arena challenge where it's balanced and it's all skill.
That's exactly what's in my mind. Yeah, that type of like Clash Royale is a really good example. Everyone just gets put to the same level, and then it's just about, did you pick the right team? Are you countering right? Are you using your units in the right way? So exactly that type of mentality. And I'm not going to say that's easy to do in this genre, because I don't know if it will be easy to do, but I think it's definitely doable, and I think it will be more enjoyable. People will be like, well, I'm the minnow and I can win this tournament, which is cool. I think that's fun. So,
yeah, for sure. And then the last thing I have for you here, I had a lot of people asking, and obviously you're not going to know the fine details, but just like in general, a lot of people obviously are going to be curious. The hottest topic is always going to be monetization. So so that's always going to be the elephant in the room. How do you balance, free-to-play players having access to enjoying the game and consistently progressing, while also, like you said, you're going to be investing a lot of money in risk. So, I mean, obviously the game has to have some sort of revenue, and it's free to play.
Yeah.
So how do you balance like the incentivizing of players to spend and also kind of enabling the free-to-play players to enjoy the game as well?
Yeah, so I guess the first hurdle we've got to get past is create a really cool game. Yeah, with characters that people absolutely are going to want to collect. And if we do that, then the people that do want to spend money and get things faster will spend money, I think. Like that's just a natural way of these games. We absolutely will make sure it's free-to-play friendly, but my view is free-to-play friendly is you can get to anywhere in the game over time versus a spender who can just get there quicker than you. And that's the balance for me. So it's not, we definitely won't have things like you need a +4 of a champion type of mode to be the number one. Like that doesn't work in terms of providing future balance. Whereas we want people to be able to obtain things, but just over time if they're free to play. And even the kind of like monetization strategy, if you like, obviously we've got to both recoup money and then have a business that makes money. Like that's natural. We have to do that. So we have to get a kind of pricing to a point where it makes sense, but isn't like what I would class as greed. And that's kind of like our philosophy, really. Trying to build a game for the community. The community would want to love to play, and we want for there to be a nice balance between the spender versus the free to play. Ultimately, we could try and do all those things, and I will know for sure that there'll still be people that think we're overpriced, or that's just natural. In fact, Dragon Champions was one of the first alternatives to Raid that I played. It was super cheap in comparison to Raid, and there's still plenty of people that thought it was overpriced. So it's just part and parcel of what we're kind of getting into. But I guess we'll just go at it with a view of, we think it's fair, listen to the feedback, look at how many kind of players are engaging in the game, and make decisions.
Yeah, and I totally agree with your thought process there. You can let me know if you disagree, but I always thought one of the areas that Raid did right on monetization was the buying of masteries for 800 gems. So you can, as a free-to-play player, you can still get your champions fully mastered. But if you're a spender, you can just get it right away. You don't have to farm it. So it's like both players can get to the same spot. It's just one can kind of get there quicker if they're willing to spend a little bit.
Yeah, and the counter to that is there's no definitive way to get books right now by grinding, other than maybe winning events and stuff. And I think that's a mistake. like for me, there should be a way, whether it's a dungeon or mode or some sort of way for you to collect pages towards a full book to be able to book your champion. So those type of things are what we're going to be considering. Like, how do we create a game where there's still a grind element? We want people to play the game. It's not an idle game. It's going to be a playable game. We want people to enjoy it, but also kind of feel like, yeah, you know what, today I did this and it enabled me to get this bit further, and therefore, you start to progress a bit further.
Cool, thanks. I have a million questions, but I'll stop there, and maybe we'll meet up here in a few months again. But is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to convey to people that I didn't touch on, that you want to make sure and kind of get out there right now?
I don't know. I feel like we've covered quite a lot, actually. I guess the main things for me, if I've not already said it, is just we have a great IP, great depth to the game, and we're kind of like community driven. So we will definitely listen to what people say about the game and try and react. So yeah, otherwise, no, I feel like we talked about loads. I don't know I can't even remember what we talked about to know what we didn't.
That's right. That's right. Well, then also, can you let people know really quick on the way out how to support, how to be a part of it? What do they get on like Patreon, and kind of give people like the rundown of how to support?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so we've got our kind of Discord already set up, which is great. We've already got like 1,300 people in the Discord, which is nuts. We've got the Patreon going as well, where if people want to just kind of like support us along the way, you can do so. Basically, for the middle and the top tier, you'll get some exclusive Fateless merch as well. It's all on the Patreon page. And you'll also get some of the behind-the-scene kind of footage, some of the behind-the-scene conversation around champions and that type of thing as we get into development. So, the Patreon guys will just get kind of like first look at anything that's going on. Other than that, we're kind of going through an investment phase, but all of that information will be shared on the Discord. So really, if people want to discuss that in any way, either talk to me directly or come into the Discord and kind of wait for the announcement. It should be coming over the next couple of days. Yeah, and that's probably the best ways, really. And obviously the website, which you've kind of shared already. So that would just give people a kind of grounding on what's going on.
Cool. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you trying to kind of answer as best you can, and I'm sure we'll touch base here in a few months once you know a lot more and once things are really moving along. So yeah, I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you having me on as well. Like, it's always fun to talk about these things, and sometimes answering questions just kind of like raises questions in your head around, have we actually really thought this bit through? So it's cool. I like it.
Cool. Well, that is HellHades, and I will put all the relevant links down below for you to check out everything we talked about and check out his channel as well. So yeah, thanks, man. Have a good rest of your day.
Cheers, man. You too.